Welcome to the Deep Life Podcast.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
Carly, you're an entrepreneur, an international speaker, and a human behavior specialist. Let's just lay some groundwork and foundation. What exactly is a human behavior specialist, and what do you help your clients with? And also, I'm curious, so it's kind of two questions. What do you speak about when you go and talk to audience and listeners?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I think about the human behavior dynamic, it's really why we're doing what we're doing, the core of what drives our behaviors, our actions, our thought processes. And sometimes it's transforming those, right? Because some of these behaviors, actions, and thought processes can be quite challenging. So not only are we working on understanding ourselves so we can really align our lives with what's truly valuable and important to us, but we're also transforming the things that challenge us when it causes us to get stuck. We get stuck in those limited beliefs, those mindsets, and the various challenges that, we face in a day-to-day life. So that would be really what I love to discuss when it comes up to the human behavior. And then also a lot about business, just because I love business. And to me, business is one of the greatest journeys of personal development I think I've ever been on in my entire life. So if you love personal development, start a business. So totally. So those are definitely the top things that I'm speaking about, and then how they intertwine together, which is also quite inspiring.
Oh my gosh, so much to unpack there. So much. I completely agree. And I actually really love maybe possibly bringing and bridging business into this in a sense. I can tell you a little bit of my experience as well. But let's maybe dive into first limiting beliefs. I don't want to get too esoteric or religious here or, spiritual in the sense, although we do talk about all these things, but something that I've discovered on this journey is truly, yes, I'm listening to these stories, these narratives that are running in my head as a witness and observer, and they're so limiting. Where are these stories coming from? And I like that you kind of are saying that that's what I'm studying, because those beliefs and what I'm hearing, that's conscious. It's in my mind, so I'm conscious of them, but they have to start before that they come from subconscious programming. And please correct me if I'm wrong or if you have a different opinion on this, but that's really like, I love diving into this. Where did that come from? Where are these root challenges and the limiting beliefs? And I believe a lot of this, from, like I said, my journey itself, it's coming from that identity, the persona that I've created for myself from such a young age, where I'm absorbing energy, information, the dialogues of the caregivers and parents and friends and teachers and, clergy people around me. And I didn't even realize it, that bring about these conscious thoughts that now I'm aware of. And those limiting beliefs almost belong to the separate part of myself, that ego, or like I said, the identity that's created itself, that thinks it's supposed to be this way. But we're not limited. We are like boundless, timeless beings. And how can we begin to like empower ourselves to step truly into the essence of who we actually are?
Yeah, I love how you really sort of put that together. And yeah, absolutely, because it's that unconscious dynamic that is built up over time that we are now becoming conscious of through our language, our limiting beliefs, right? So sometimes it's like, oh, I hate this belief. I don't ever want to have a limiting belief again. But part of how it serves us is, you're right, it's bringing the unconscious conscious, right? So it's a beautiful gift to have this opportunity to be able to reflect on them. So a great example is, just working with a client recently, and kind of it comes up in this very dynamic of the unconscious shoulds and shouldn'ts and stuff, where when we started working together, the dynamic was, what was really funny. They were like, I just want to love my job and like do better in my work and my career in the path that they were taking, right? And I was like, okay, let's dive in. We'll do it. Bought a package. The first session, I'm talking to him, and I'm like, you do not want to be in this business. And I'm like, I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'm not even gonna like really try to tackle that, but I'm just gonna focus on what I'm recognizing and noticing is that this individual is so inspired by their coaching and consulting, which they've just been doing very part-time, right? And I'm seeing that the level of inspiration that comes through when they talk about it. And this is something that we can pay attention to as individuals, where our body will viscerally and like physically react in different ways to things that we are shoulding ourselves on versus things that we would love to do. So when this individual was talking to me about some coaching stuff, they lit up. All of a sudden, they're energized, they're alive. Man, they couldn't shut up about it. Like they become the greatest speaker on the planet. And I'm like, okay, this is inspiring you. When they're talking about the job and the actual career they have, they don't have that. There's all these shoulds, have tos, need to, must, right? So the first thing that I like to tackle is we're trying to find out where this rooted in the subconscious. In this particular individual, they had a perception, a limiting belief that they weren't good enough to be able to become the coach that they really wanted to be. And they couldn't do it in the way that they were inspired by because it wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to work because they're subordinating to their teachers, right? So what we wound up uncovering is that there was a perception with one particular individual, one teacher, that they were comparing themselves to. So they had this perception that they weren't good enough. And this happens to us all the time. I mean, we encounter some pretty amazing people on this planet and it's easy to subordinate. It's just easy. So when we catch that, it'll come in as shoulds, have tos, need to. I can't do it. The limiting beliefs come through. So what we wind up doing in these sessions is we wind up going in and finding where this individual has the very thing that they're admiring in someone else that they thought was missing inside them. And the cool thing about it is we're going to find it in a unique form that's unique to this individual. So at the end of the consultation, as opposed to them going forward and thinking they had to be a coach just like their mentor, they went in and they started to create the coaching practice that was unique to them. And Brent, it was just basically bringing in all parts of himself. And the results that they were getting were amazing. It was really cool to hear like the feedback next week where he's like, you'll never believe what happened on the consultation. And I'm like, yeah. And it's crazy because when we stopped working on the shoulds of I need to have a business, I have to have a business, or sorry, I need to be working in this company, I have to be working in this company too. This is what I would truly love to do. Like they brought in a significant quantity of income within the first month. And he's like, I don't even know where these people are coming from. I'm like, they're coming from you focusing on what matters most and providing great quality results to clients. Like that's where they're coming from. And so it's really cool because that switched the dynamic. And then the other thing, the subconscious belief that we are pulling forward and removing is this subordination to how life is supposed to be in regards to like this person was told growing up, like you have to have a stable job, you have to have this, like your life has to look this way. Like you need to have a certain degree. You need to do XYZ. And so they're also working through that. That's coming from the parental dynamic society, the teaching, and that specific way that they grew up. And that's the unconscious as well. So that's why it was hard for that person to let go of this thought that they have to work in this business, this company, and kind of embrace what's truly important to them, right? And so when we kind of think about our own subconscious strategies and our own challenges, it's really important that we pay attention to the language that we're using. If you're using language like should, need to, have to, must, supposed to, got to, ought to, ask according to who, right? And that's the first question I asked is like, according to who? And so that was really helpful for this individual where it's like, oh, you need to teach in this way according to who? And then we pull out the mentor. And that's where I know the deeper work is. Oh, you need to work in a business according to who? And then we pull out the people. And I know that's where the deeper work is, right? And so that's a really great way to do it because what we really want to focus on is the things that we naturally say, I would love to do this. I want to do this. I choose to do this. Because whenever I hear that language from my client, I don't care what you signed up for. I'm really sorry, not sorry, but we're going to dive into getting you what you would love to do. I'm really hyper focused on your language because that's how evident it is and how much it gives us deep, like this depth into the subconscious mind that is guiding us on where to go.
I love it.
Yeah, that's such it's a very familiar example. I think as you were describing that, I recognize that part because it sounds a lot like myself. And I think it's really interesting as you're talking about like this idea of sort of like we have an idea of what things are supposed to look like. And I think the more, at least I found with myself, like the more I try to figure out how to fit things into that framework, the more I limit myself. And really it was like resisting all the other potentials and possibilities that could have come along with it or come as I would have come along as I released those like constraints.
Yeah, that's a beautiful example too, because I think also, let's be realistic on life. Like, this is really a lot easier for me to do with other people than it is to do with myself. Like, it's so funny. Um, I work on personal development with individuals, we work on businesses together, and I sit here and I help people do this all the time. And then I'll be sitting in the same experience and moment and like, Carly, you know this. Like, it doesn't have to look the way you thought it should. I'm like, okay, take a deep breath, step back. So I think too is like when we're talking about this stuff, you know, in any podcast, it always sounds so easy or it sounds simple, but then when we're personally applying it, I know that it can also be quite difficult. So just understand like that's completely normal. Yeah, because yeah, it is that dynamic where we get really caught up in it because we're also caught up in the outcomes, right? We're caught up because it's important to us. You know, there's a certain level of attachment, but being realistic is it's important to you. Like, the outcome is actually important. So you're going to have some sort of emotional attachment to it. It's natural. It's going to happen. And that's kind of the ebb and flow of our life. So it's great to have these tools that we can utilize to reflect so that we can kind of catch things as they come along.
Absolutely. And I love everything that you were saying. Yes, I was thinking when you were talking about the coaching, I like wasn't nudging Dan, but like I could, just because he's gone through it and it beautifully, like it's almost, how can I put it? It's I work a lot, like I get a lot of intuitive downloads, I call them. The more I begin to like I like hear more clearly like the inner workings of myself. And it's almost like get out of your own way. And that sounds a little bit kind of weird, maybe perhaps for people, but you're nodding your head, Carly. So I know that you know what I mean. What I was talking about, like that identity, the ego persona that has the shoulds, must haves, has to. Like once that's out of the way in any way, then the capacity of our, you know, higher self or true self, capital S, can really work through. And I love that. Language is something that Dan and I have really been focusing on for the last couple of years. I did not truly understand the power of the vibrational essence of what words and the meaning that they carry. And the meaning that they carry is so individualized. It's unique. You say success, it's going to mean three different things to all of us here in the world. You have to really truly understand what it means for you and how you'd like to abide in that. Kind of on that theme of success, I want to lean into a little bit of the challenges you spoke about and these obstacles, turning perhaps obstacles into opportunities to better understand who we are and what we're really looking for in life, using these obstacles and challenges to guide us, to listen. What are you showing me? Because we all know, or I don't want to make that assumption. I'm pretty confident we all either have friends or relatives that are kind of in a job and then they hate the job and they get a new job. Oh, it's even worse. Then they leave that job and it's even worse. The one constant is that person. Perhaps life is granting and gifting you the opportunity to look within yourself. We tend to want to blame. I've been there. I'm going to be the first to raise my hand. I still tend to do this. Blame the external circumstances for why we feel a certain way. And then we try to change the external without looking within us. So how do you help your clients begin to look at the challenges and perhaps where the root cause of these challenges? I know that you gave that beautiful example, but any more so that we can kind of dive deeper into these challenges to really work with them as a catalyst.
Yeah, that's an inspiring question as well. And it kind of offshoots to what you were saying in the regards to success, where we all look at success differently, right? So when we think about a challenge, technically we all look at it differently as well. There could be a dozen people in a room and we all go through the same thing, but one person will come out just everything's normal. It was an event. Someone's going to be like, wow, that was really a cool experience. And then someone else could be traumatized, right? And it's like, well, what happened? We all experienced the same thing. And so it's really based on our perceptions of the experience and what challenges we perceive we occurred. So when we think about turning challenges into opportunities, it's actually shifting our perception on it. You know, so it's like if I'm in that room with a dozen people, and let's say a dozen people were genuinely going through the same thing, how do I get to the state where I look at it like that one person that says, this was just an event, nothing happened, it's just an event, it's what was necessary, and I'm going to move on, right? That's what we're actually doing is we're shifting our perception to such a degree that we can get to that state. because then when we're in that state, we have no emotional attachment. It doesn't trigger us. It doesn't bother us. It doesn't frustrate us. And if we don't have emotions around it, guess what? We don't have brain noise. It's just a day-to-day thing, right? And so to do that, we really want to dive in to find out the specificities of what's truly impacting us about this event, right? And when we go and dive into those specificities, we find out, well, what's bothering me? How is this a challenge in this moment? Like what do I think is like the worst thing that's occurring? And then we ask ourselves a question to balance it out. We ask ourselves how it actually serves us, how it benefits us. And this is where personal development becomes a mathematical equation, right? If I look at it and I have -10, my perception is -10 on the negative side, right? And I have one positive. What do I have? I have a -9 perception. What we really want, we don't want a positive perception, because then all of a sudden you're going to be elated and you're going to be like, I'm going to create this challenge all day, every day, right? And that's not what we want either. We actually just want neutrality. We want to get it to 0. And so we keep adding how it served us, how it benefited us, until we get to that state of neutrality where I say, okay, it's equally a benefit, a drawback. I actually see that this is just an event and I'm grateful for it, right? It comes with equal challenge to support. And this is cool too, because this is how we balance our perception even on the other side. Again, mathematical equation. If I look at something and I have all positives on it, what do we know? Like, and this is dating, by the way, the funnest example is dating. When we go in on all positives on someone that we're dating, and then all of a sudden the next week we're like, I did not see that. This person just flipped the switch. And we're like, what happened? Well, what happened is your perceptions are off. You had 10 positives and 0 negatives. But the truth is that every person comes with an equal quantity of challenge and support, but you chose to see one side. And so in any event and situation, if we have that perception that it's all positive or too many positives, and we're not seeing any of the negatives, the challenges that come with it, right? When I say negative, I mean the challenges that come with it, the drawbacks. Then we're not actually seeing it holistically. And we can't really truly be grateful for the opportunity because we don't even know what it entails. And so even with that dynamic, whenever I have a client who has too many of these positives, right? Like I'll go in and we'll go see the drawbacks until we get to 0, just 0. That's it. We just want to get to neutrality. And so that's kind of how we're turning these challenges into opportunities. And I label those things that we have too good, too amazing, too perfect, right? Those too good to be true things are also challenges, because those are traps. Those are the traps that we fall in because we refuse to see the other side, and then we're completely unprepared for what comes with it. So that's also turning a challenge into an opportunity. And I think in a business sense, we look at it. It's funny because it's easier to look at it in a business sense, but we want to apply this to personal life, right? If we look at businesses, I love Jeff Bezos. I was hearing about this and I was like, I totally get that. I love those meetings where he goes in and he has like almost negativity meetings where they just sit and they talk about everything that's going to go wrong with like a current project. But the reason that they're doing that is they're planning, they're creating foresight, they're going through all the things that they have certainty will be a challenge, so that once they actually launch this project, it's just those little unexpecteds that come forward, but they're pretty prepared for everything else. And that's how you get through big projects, right? And so it's like, why are we not applying that to our own life? This is part of that mathematical equation where even if you're going into a relationship, instead of being like, oh, I'm thinking negatively, it's like, no, I really like this person and this individual. But, like even my husband, he lives in another country, right? So it's like we talked about all the preparation and we prepared, because he's Canadian, I'm American, all the things that would be a challenge, right? We have a cultural difference in the background, right? He's Sikh Indian, right? And then I'm also Italian American, right? And so it's a different culture. And we went through all the things that we know so that we could prepare for the different challenges that were going to come forward, right? And then that helped us because then there's the surprises that occur. But had we just like looked at this like, oh, this is all good and intercultural and everything's perfect and amazing, we really would have been unprepared, genuinely. We would have been unprepared for even like the visa process and the process of being separated. We would have been unprepared for the cultural differences between ourselves and even some of the dynamics with like family and the culture and religion, like all of it. I would have been so unprepared. But we went in and we talked about what we knew would be a challenge, before we even got married. And so we brought that dynamic of seeing both sides in, and genuinely help prepare us. And so we think we're not supposed to because we're told we're only supposed to think positive, but it's actually not just about positivity. It's about preparation, right? And so what I'm asking is like, be prepared for what's going to occur, but also is that an inspiring challenge to you? And this is cool too, because it's like this aligns with our life purpose. When I talk to my husband about all this stuff, these are inspiring challenges for me. This is like something that, yeah, it's going to be hard, but I enjoy doing it and I enjoy doing it with him, right? But if you're sitting there and you're like hearing all these challenges and you're like, I don't want to do this, like, it sounds like it sucks. Where there's some challenges that people talk to me about, and I'm like, I'm super grateful that you have your life. I don't ever want to like I love my challenges. I love my problems and we say it like if we put all of our problems in front of each other, I'm still gonna pick my own because those are inspiring to me. So that's another reason why you want to bring these things up is like if these are genuinely challenges that you're like, this is not inspiring to me at all, it might actually not be aligned with your purpose, you know? And it's like maybe that's something that you give yourself permission to disconnect from, walk away from, and walk towards the challenges to a greater degree that you're already pursuing, you're already inspired by, you're already doing it, those are meaningful to you, you know? So there's a lot of dynamics and things that we can kind of embrace by turning these, it's so much, your whole life becomes an opportunity when you shift your perception, you know?
Yeah, I love this. It's a perspective that you really don't hear very often. Like you said, like we are always told to sort of focus on the positives and don't dwell on the negative. And for people listening, like this might sound like you are like saying like don't be happy, like just dwell on
No.
the I think it goes so much beyond that because there's this aspect of like what you resist persists. And if we keep wasting energy putting these things away and pretending that they're not there, then we're eventually going to be blindsided with it because we're going to keep being forced with that challenge until we actually do face it. But by just shining a light on it and bringing a little bit of awareness to it and knowing that, okay, this is a potential that could happen, you take away that power to blindside yourself. And it actually ends up being really empowering. And then, like you're saying, everything then becomes an opportunity. And just knowing about these potential challenges gives you something to overcome and a way of developing yourself and kind of always moving forward. And I think it's a really empowering message you're sharing.
I love what you say too, like in the sense, you're right, what you resist persists. And it's like, so yeah, it's like, and it's funny because we're not taking away happiness. Like if you aren't positive all the time, it doesn't mean you can't like actually be grateful. You know, like I have moments where I'm like, man, this is like a really hard challenge, but I'm still so grateful. And that feels more fulfilling than trying to avoid it. And it's cool because then if you give yourself permission to embrace all of life, right? All parts, all the experiences and all the existence, then you can still have gratitude even in the hard moments and you're not trying to avoid it. And just what you resist persists. Like the best example that I could ever give, I have a friend who worked with a client who had an alcoholic father. And I mean, this is just so obvious, the entanglement and the connection to what you resist persists. An alcoholic father and had 5 husbands named Mike who were all alcoholic.
Oh,
5 times. And so I'm like, this is the most obvious example of what you resist persists. And like you hear it and you're like, oh my gosh, you can't even make a story like that up.
I wouldn't believe that.
Yeah, you hear it and you're like, who is this person, right? And it's like that's insane. But then finally, like it just got so obvious that they finally were like, okay, I'm gonna work on my dad. And that's when they came to my friend, right? They found my friend and were able to work on like the core wound so they can move on and not marry another Mike that's an alcoholic. Like you start to see these patterns in your life of what you're retracting, and it's like, okay, what does that remind you of? Where's the deeper work? What are you trying to push down? Because it just gets louder and louder and louder until we face it. Yeah, so it's a beautiful, I love that saying, what you resist does persist.
Exactly. Full circle to what you were saying before about
Mhm.
the sort of like the should. We have this like this ego personality that we've developed that has this idea of what life should be, and it's trying to like constantly beating us up and saying like no, like you should do this, you should do that, when those things aren't in alignment. So we keep going down these same paths over and over, trying to force it and make it happen so we don't disappoint, whether it's that inner critic within us or, something we're projecting onto our parents or our friends or our partners. and like trying to force it. And the more we force it, the less we're in alignment with our purpose.
Totally. And I love that too, because it's like that dynamic of our prides that we're trying to hold on to, right? We're trying to hold on to these prides and we all get stuck in it, by the way. And sometimes like it takes me a while to just realize how much I'm trying to force like the square peg into the round hole, right? And then you hit it and it's like, what are you doing? In what world do you think you have this level of control? Like, chill, girl. Like, just slow down, you know? And it takes a second because it's humbling because the universe is like, hey, pay attention. Like, you're not in charge of this. And what I like to remember is there's a beautiful video where they have like it's one of the Carl Sagan videos where he talks about how we're this like tiny speck in the universe, and you kind of have the outside view of it pans out from Earth, right? And I'm this like one dot in Southern California. And then you pan out to the whole entire universe, and you're just like, Jesus, like, why am I making this such a big deal? And then simultaneously, I like to remember that while I'm here in as one human, simultaneously, all these other things are occurring, and the world is functioning in this way that we're all interconnected, you know, and that's just our planet Earth. And then there's also like a whole universe out there that's pretty much endless, according, like, we don't even know where it ends. And all of that somehow is like functioning together and intertwined. And then even my body, it's like how my body works. Like, if we really just sit and think, like, the heart is pumping and cells are building and destroying right now. Like, if you really sit and just think for just like even like a 30-second reflecting on what your body is doing right now, it's mind blowing. Like, how it just is like alive and functioning without me even doing anything. And then you're like, how did that even get created and why? And then you go through all these things and you're like, and I'm trying to control this one thing today? Like, how do I think that, like, and then you just realize, like, you're so powerless, but also powerful because you're a part of all this and contributing to it. And you're like, whoa. And it's like a mini existential crisis that reminds you and humbles you, like, let go. Like, sometimes just like, let go. Your outcome will come forward, but it might not be the way that you thought it was going to be, and you'll probably like it better.
Yeah. We convince ourselves it's wrong because it's not exactly how our limited mind perceives it's going to go. And like you said, it's like the entire infinite universe needs to happen in order for that thing to happen. Perfect.
Yeah, right. It's like the whole universe. Why aren't you listening to me, entire structure of the universe? And it's like, what are you doing, Carly?
I love it. Oh my gosh, this is so much in alignment with, you know, how we perceive life. I've absolutely had a crisis or a midlife crisis at 30. I'm on the fetal position in my bed. Who am I? What am I doing? Why am I here? But those breaks are the cracks in the foundation that bring light, that have so beautifully shifted my perspective. And from the people that I talk to that are kind of on this path, this ascension journey that we are, it's totally necessary. Like, the foundation of who we believed ourselves to be must crumble so that we can actually become who we are truly meant to become. I want to dive a little bit deeper into the perception. This is just, like I said, one of my favorite topics. I think our favorite topic here. And like the stories, we have these stories, and I've heard this, so I don't want to take the quote away from, so do you know who Peter Crone is?
Yes.
He's like the mind architect.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. He is like changed my life, blown it. And he says, we're not victims to circumstance, we're victims to our perception of circumstance, which is exactly like alignment, what we're talking about. And those perception shifts, the perspectives that we each hold individually, really can truly, like, I've had this experience, can change the past. And I don't mean the events that happened in the past, like some things that happened to me. I'm able to change the stories and my relationship to them because I've built what I can only assert as new neural pathways. I've directed my attention, which is thought energy, the energy goes where attention goes, into a different pathway. So I want to talk a little bit about the science behind that. What are these sciences behind actually shifting our perspective, and how is that beneficial for us?
Yeah, so this is amazing because like when we think about the science and they came out with something fairly recently in the past couple years, and pardon me, I don't know the exact name, but if you Google it, you can find Scientific American, and they talk about memory and anti-memory, right? So there's what we remember, which is kind of what Peter Crone is saying. It's like the victim of our perception, right? That's what we're remembering, that's the memory. But then the anti-memory is the thing that we locked away. That's the balancing equation. Remember when I talked before about that balancing equation? So whenever I'm working with a client, basically all I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out what anti-memory got locked in the subconscious and what's that balancing component and what question to ask to pull out the data, right? That gives them the balance in the perception. And when I say data, I'm saying that this exists in your life, right? This is nothing where we're going to go in and we're going to restructure and recreate a new memory and make it different because that's like what would work. It's like, no, something did happen. There's an anti-memory in there that we're going to find and we're going to unlock, and we're just going to ask the right questions to get the right information, right? And it's really cool because it's like whenever I love this, by the way, like it's actually like amazing to like see it happen. It's so inspiring. Super, this is why I signed up for doing this work, because of just working through like a perceived trauma. And I say perceived now because it genuinely was perceived. Now I can go back and be like, whoa, this was like the best experience of my life, right? And so it's like just working through that and seeing the dynamics of both sides. And you're like, I couldn't even make this up. Like how perfect every moment and fraction of a second was for my life, and how it created what created today, and just even the experience of pain and the physicality and the emotional and internal stuff and all that chaos was perfect for me at that time. You can't even make it up when you dive in and you see the other side. And so it's like whenever we have that experience of trauma, there's something that was so challenging to us in our perception that because of that, we only have focused on the one side. So even whenever I'm working on like even a car accident, for example, I'll take people through step by step by step in a car accident and find out where the other side existed, right? So it's like I remember one where it was like, oh, the glass shattered, and in that moment the glass was coming at her face, right? And it was like, okay, what was happening to you in that moment? And she's like, I was in danger. And I was like, okay, well, where were you safe? Where was there safety? Right? And she said, well, the airbag had gone off and it kind of like protected her from hitting her head in a certain way. And so every time she's simultaneously experiencing danger, she has the same degree of safety in her body, where it was like her arms were really tense, right? When you get in a car accident, I was like, where was your body relaxed? Where did you feel calm? And she was like, my mind. You know, my mind was incredibly calm. My legs were calm, right? And so all these things simultaneously happening, all of a sudden you reframe it from only this chaos to actually something really like balanced occurring, right? And when we have really traumatic moments, we'll often pull in like an iconography. So like when I had like my personal traumatic moment, right? Like I didn't have when something was happening that was really stressful, right? And the individual was like really challenging me and I felt restrained, right? Where did I think I had freedom in that moment? My mind was free, right? My mind was free. And then I started to bring in at the time the iconography that I had grown up with, which part was my grandfather, who I'd never met before, but I'd heard so many stories about him that he became that visualization, right? And that balance was something that was giving me both sides of a situation. It's amazing. And that's the memory and the anti-memory, right? And all the things that were occurring at that time for a reason. Like when I went back into that, I genuinely see how I created it. When I say that when we have too many positives, that's a challenge to overcome. I had so many positives as a child on this relationship that I was almost manic about it, right? As a kid, like I'm not even kidding. Like I'll go back and I'll look and I see and I can feel this like mania as a child around relationships, because I had pedestalized it to such a degree in my head that I actually sought it out. Like this is insane. So when there was an adult who, I mean, you're not meant to do this. I'm not excusing like an adult doing this anyways. But when there was an adult like who had an offer of that for me, I didn't think it was bad. I didn't think it was wrong. I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to avoid it because I had so many positives associated with it. I actually can remember being flirtatious, like as a 7-year-old. And I was like, that's insane. That's insane. And you go back and you're like, I cannot believe like that's what too much positive, when I say too much positivity is a challenge, that was too much positivity. And so I didn't see the other side. And part of how this served me is like it gave me my childhood back, you guys. Like I
Yeah.
didn't, it makes me want to cry. I'm so grateful. Like I did not understand what a real relationship was like because you're just a kid. And so, and these are tears of gratitude, by the way. Like I'm so grateful to experience because the moment it got really challenging, I just remember the moment and I thought, I just want to be a kid. And so while everyone even was dating and stuff and like middle school, I was like, I'm not into it. I just want to like be a kid. You guys are being too serious. And that dynamic has kept a playfulness with me for the rest of my life. And even in personal development, I mean, you hear me talking about it. I'm talking about traumas. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying myself. It's a serious conversation. And even when I'm working with clients, it's serious when we're working with it, but you're going to enjoy yourself. You're going to get off the phone. You're going to enjoy yourself. But it's because of that experience that just reminded me to hold on to like the things that you enjoy. Stop trying to grow up so fast, right? And so we sit here and that was the anti-memory, right? All these little things that I hadn't had. And so you have the memory, which is the one thing that we're focused on the most because it genuinely is challenging, right? We don't want to discount that. That's why you're only focused on the memory. And then we pull the anti-memory out usually later because we have some time to be able to go back and face that in a different way because I recognize sometimes it's even hard to go back and face those dynamics. And it's cool because I find that the more that I do this work or the individuals do this more work, the more quickly we're willing to actually go back and be like, this is going to be hard. It was just really hard, but I can actually go in and face it because I have the tools to be able to see the other side. Yeah. So, yeah, it's the memory, anti-memory. We want to pull out the other side, see the situation holistically, and you'll find that you can instill this gratitude for anything that you've gone through because it's there. It's actual data in your life. And that is when I say like it's just so valuable, like this is beyond us saying go be positive, go like have like, a fulfilling life or something. It's like, no, I want you to have so much data that your life is perfect and magnificent. And everything that you've done, gone through, not done, you're worthy of love. Your life is worthy of love. And when you feel it, I'm telling you, everything changes. Like it was one of the greatest gifts on the planet. Like I can't ever imagine ever walking away from this. Ever. Yeah, ever.
You so much for sharing
Mhm.
that story, being
Mhm.
vulnerable, and the gratitude tears that, gosh, I could feel just even being like across the,
Yeah.
the computer here. It's so beautiful. And I have had moments of that too, where I looked back on my childhood and was like, what the fuck? Like, this is not something I signed up for. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that makes sense. But like you said, I hold so much compassion for people who are
Mhm.
in it. Those
Yeah.
challenges are hard. It's hard being human. And I think that you too, Carly, as well as Dan, I'm not trying to negate that in any way. Like, but I think what we do as a society, again, this is simply my opinion, is we try to avoid that. We avoid the challenges. We have substances. We work too much. We shop too much. We eat too much. We travel too much, whatever it may be to, like I said, garner external ways of
Yeah.
being better. But the challenges are going to begin to continuously present themselves until you go through it. And it sucks. It could be a week, it could be a year, it could be 20 years, it could be a lifetime for some people, but whatever, regardless, that journey, that process is exactly right for the individual to elevate to that level of consciousness that they're required to in this life. And really, like, I'm not saying that I want people to go through challenges either, but they are the most beautiful way for you to
Yeah.
better understand yourself and to grant yourself everything that you're looking for from someone else. It's like, holy shit, I can give this to myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's fun because like, I actually want people to go through challenges
I
now.
know, I
I'm
know.
like, I'm so sorry, but I'm not sorry.
Like,
I'm like, I love you. It's so funny because you're like, I know it's hard, and it's not even to say as I face different things and new things, and I'll heal one thing, but there's, like when I got married, there were things that came up in my psyche that I didn't even realize were an impact. And then all of a sudden, the marriage is the thing that triggered it. And it's like, whoa, that was a deep core wound. And I've been avoiding it forever because I haven't had this dynamic of marriage that I really wanted, right? And so I don't have unrealistic expectations for that not to occur. We're gonna have kids that we're gonna plan on in the next couple years. All my shit's coming up in a different way soon, guys. Like I have no illusions about this whatsoever, And so, but I want these challenges. These are things that I'd love to face, that I'd love to experience. And that's where we dive in again back into the language. It's like, what would you love to experience? What would you love to have in your life? And go create a life that is focused with those challenges, because those are the ones you're inspired to overcome. Those are the ones you want to overcome. If I sit there and say, like, I'm going to be an expert on football, I like, it's not gonna happen. Someone else out there is doing it, and I'm so grateful that that's inspiring to you. But like for me, I'm like, please just kill me now. Like I just don't want to live that life. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to do anything. Do I want to talk about athletes and mindset? For sure. But do I want to talk about like the crux of what it is? Absolutely not. Like I can't even handle it. It's so low on the values. Construction. I want to build houses and I love architecture. But if you talk to me about the nitty-gritty of construction, I just blank out, man. And so, me and Home Depot is just my nightmare. Home Depot is my nightmare. Like, and for some people, it's like their favorite place on the planet. And so this is it. It's like for me, that's a challenge that's not worth facing. Where other people, and some people are going to be listening and be like, I love fixing things. That is you. That is the challenges you're meant to face, So it's really paying attention to that. And how can we structure our lives in such a way that for me, I'm not ever going into Home Depot. And if you love Home Depot, you're making your life around a dynamic where you get to do and build things on a regular basis so that you're doing the things that you love, So it's like, how can we create that in such a way that challenges are inspiring to you? And this is, I think, one of the coolest parts of life is that we have the opportunity to do that. And we have the opportunity to reflect on that and give ourselves permission, to get to the other side. And we feel more confident, more like a greater self-esteem, as opposed to trying to subordinate to this idea of what I should learn or I'm supposed to learn, because I'll fail there. I'll fail if I try to do that. But if I let someone else do it who loves it, that's perfect. And I can actually get to the other side and make progress in things that I love.
I love that too. And I want to kind of circle back and make sure that, because I heard you mention this a little while ago about challenges and like uncovering these challenges to help uncover our life's purpose, which I think is kind of like what you're saying. Like some people's challenges are amazing and that's the direction for them to go. That's what they love. And like you said, with the Home Depot, like, is that what you mean to truly kind of uncover? Because yes, I think for while I thought like life's purpose from perhaps, it came from an Italian American background, like get married, have kids, Catholic background. Like I am certainly not on that. My family will graciously tell you that. But like that's the imprint that I was conditioned and programmed to think. Like I'm also now realizing I was so naive at such a young age to realize there's only one purpose. And perhaps there is, maybe as a collective, I haven't figured it out, but like we do individually, I truly believe, arrive here to break through these limiting constraints of, this third dimensional reality that we're living in to find our purpose. And I don't even know if purpose, and I love your opinion on this, like, is purpose something we do or is it something we become?
It's something we already are. It just is. And this is the cool thing, because it's like, again, this is like, it's just science. Just ask the right questions. Just ask the right questions. We think that we need to go find it, right? And and like it's missing. But like if it was missing, why would you even be here? If we have no purpose, then we're done. Things that serve no purpose anymore go extinct, right? And Oh, this is where just I love ChatGPT. Let's like acknowledge AI because I'm not going to remember the name of the author. I'm not going to remember the name of the book right now, but there is a guy who talks about why animals have gone extinct and he shows how they don't serve a purpose anymore.
Yes. Oh my God. We were
Yeah.
just doing a documentary on this.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
know what you're talking about. So yeah.
Oh, cool. Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. And I'm like, you can totally AI ChatGPT find it too. But the amazing thing about this is like if it doesn't serve a purpose, it leaves the planet. So you're still here. So you must have a purpose. So instead of being like, where is it? It's like, instead of like, where is it? Like something is missing inside of me. It's like, well, where is it? Like in an inquisitive way. Like, let's change the quality of the question and even how we feel about the question, where it's more of an inquisitive question instead of something's missing and there's something wrong with me, right? So we're going to change that. And your life demonstrates every day what's meaningful for you. This is really inspiring. Like every day you're going to wake up and there's things that light you up, right? There's things that you talk about, right? Like I was telling you about the client who telling me he just about like wanting to be in the business and we were going to work on his career. And then all of a sudden he's like all energized and lit up and going off like he's on a podcast or something. And I'm like, let's refocus. Like, you're so lit up right now. That energy, what gave him energy, helped to give me insights on what was valuable to him. You know, that energized him. The things that he spends time on daily, right? Like I can look and I can see, even though he works every day, he's thinking about personal development. He's thinking about the coaching practice. He's thinking about all the different stuff and he's applying it on a daily basis. Like his life demonstrates that he's spending the time on it. He invests money in it, right? This guy's not a wealthy guy. Like he does well, but he's not like this was a big package for him to purchase, right? A big package, right? But he has the wealth put aside specifically to invest in that. He puts wealth aside in his savings and then he has his personal development account. And I'm like, of course this is meaningful to you, my friend. Like this is something so meaningful to you. Your life demonstrates it's so fulfilling. You have time, energy, money, right? All put aside just for the specific thing. You want to talk about it all the time. So when you look at your life, it's like nothing's missing. But what are the top things that you're focused on that are that inspiring to you, that are that energizing, that you put that much time and energy into, right? And you'll notice a pattern. And that pattern, there's usually about 3 to 5 things that are the highest priority. You'll notice a pattern in your life that those are the things that are actually occurring. And also something to really pay attention to is because sometimes we have talk, right? Like we have depreciating talk and like the appreciating talk, right? And depreciating talk that has no evidence of coming through true in your life, that's not part of your purpose. It really isn't. So if I'm sitting here and I'm talking about like having like a 6-pack abs that you can see and my life shows no evidence of that actually occurring, that's not actually important to me. But if I see that I'm actually taking day-to-day steps to make sure that occurs, even though it hasn't happened yet, and even though some days I put myself down on it, that's evidence that that's meaningful and purposeful, right? So that's also what we want to pay attention to. If it's a fantasy, then it's not actually occurring and I'm not taking action on it. But if I'm taking action on it and I'm still struggling, that's something meaningful and purposeful, right? So it's those long-term goals too. And that's really important to remember is nothing's missing inside you. Just ask different questions and pay attention, and you can definitely dive into this dynamic of being able to understand who you are. And then once you do, this is where I just want you guys to structure your life more around it. Structure your life around goals and things you would love to achieve there and the challenges that you would love to face. Like, and that's it. This is when I say create inspiring challenges because I know you're doing this anyways and you're already challenged by it and you're already like inspired to get to the other side. Why not do more? Like you're already fulfilled, you're already energized, you're already really like enjoying your life and inspired even when things are hard in these particular areas. Why not just do more? Like, and you could have your own business, but there are places like I have another client who my husband and I both have the opportunity to work with. And what was really inspiring about this client is he doesn't want to have his own company, but what he's done is he's brought personal development because he's so into it into a multinational corporation. And yeah, so instead of him building a business around it, he likes working at companies and that's more meaningful to him. And so he literally created an entire division in the company around personal development and workshops. And now they hold yearly like events and stuff for personal growth. And that was his doing in a multinational company. I mean, we're talking about a company who's worth, I think like $500 million, right? And that one person made that happen in there because that's how important it was to him. So this is when I say like create a life around it. The sky's the limit. It's up to you how you do that. Like we talked about this before. It's only our limited perception that says this is how it's supposed to come forward. Where when we just wake up every day and we do what we love and we go through the challenges to get there, you just never know what's going to happen. You never know. And so that's, yeah, really focus on those things because it's worth it. You're worth it. Yeah.
So well
Mhm.
said. Oh my gosh. I feel like we're wrapping up here, but I feel like we're just going to ask a question.
Well, I want to almost like lean into business a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I know that you get excited to talk about business. Like, how do we maybe begin to apply this? Like, as we start recognizing our purpose and understanding what it is that we want to do in our life, it might be a little tricky for some people when they're working in one and like compartmentalizing and working in one area and then trying to structure their life around their passion and their purpose in another area. Like, how do we bring this into kind of bridge the gap to finance and like supporting our life?
For sure. In the beginning, I definitely bought into the fantasy that everyone told me, like overnight success in business and all that crap, quit my job, lost all my savings, all that stuff. And then just was like, I think I'll go back and get something part-time. I'm done with this. And what I really learned from that is not to have the unrealistic expectation. It does take quite some time to build a business. There are some people out there who like get the overnight success and hit it big, but also just recognize that there's challenges that come with that. Because if you get that quick hit, you actually don't know how to repeat that. It almost becomes like a luck dynamic, right? So I'm actually very grateful that that never happened to me because it's caused me to really invest time and energy in truly understanding business and how to scale it and how to grow it and build businesses that stand the test of time, right? Because I can't tell you how many times there's businesses out there that are crashing and burning and struggling on the back end, even though they can bring in a significant quantity of money. So for me, it's really grounding ourselves in this aspect of this is a long-term investment and how do I create it in such a way that it works for me, right? And so I love the idea of having like a part-time gig because what also it helps me with is just being able to not panic about finances every month. When it took away that panic, what I noticed, and this is the most amazing thing, even in sales calls, like at first I was panicked. I'm like, oh, if you don't make the sale, like literally, I'm going to be homeless if I don't make the sale. I can't afford food. I can't afford groceries. Where, when I went back to having that part-time job, it's like, oh, if you don't make the sale, you are fine. You're more than okay. Like you actually have a really fulfilling life. And that gave me such ease where I could talk and connect with clients on the phone. I could connect with the customer and I could still focus on the customer and the product and service. And focusing on a product and service as opposed to just me needing money to eat gave me the opportunity. Now I have a business that runs off repeats and referrals. And it's like, it's because of that time that was focused on the people, right? And the product and the service and the delivery. And I could give myself permission to focus on that. So if you're just launching, it's like nothing wrong with having like this side thing. There's a lot of people out there who are going to lie about stuff. Funny, there's an individual, especially in marketing, it's a strange thing. There's an individual who my friend was just sending me this screenshot of their profile. Won't mention who it is, obviously, but she was like, is this true? Because I worked with her in marketing. And she was like, I had my business in 2 years and I made 7 figures and I didn't do X, Y, Z. And I was like, I was in her groups. I was like, she literally taught us how to do that stuff. That was the marketing. I was like, I don't know what she's talking about. And I'm like, I get like, this is where like, be careful with the marketing ploys out there. It doesn't mean, by the way, I'm not even saying she probably, this is why I don't want to mention her name. She's probably teaching something new that's really inspiring and impactful. Like she probably is, but don't like just buy into the fantasy that I'm going to make 7 figures in 2 years. I know this person's journey to a greater degree, and I know there's a lot more to it than that. And I also know that the things that she's saying she doesn't doesn't do, she has done. But now it's transitioned, it sounds like, into something a little bit more profound, which is great, right? So be careful when you're out there. Don't buy into a fantasy of what it should. This is back to what it should look like or is supposed to look like. Understand that everything that you sign up for, no matter what is promised, I want you guys to focus on the education, implementation, refine, repeat, refine, repeat. That's all business is. We're educating ourselves, we're implementing, and then we refine, repeat, refine, repeat, refine, repeat. And most important thing as well is as we transition is you stay focused on the product and the service and the person on the receiving end. It's very easy for us to fall into our prides and the trap. By the way, it's so easy of like looking amazing and being awesome and like we're the best, right? That we lose sight, we lose focus on what really matters, which is like you're the only way you're gonna make. You want to make $1 billion, serve 1 billion people, like that's how it's gonna happen. And you're not gonna do it because you're like awesome and everyone wants to hang out with you because you're amazing. You're gonna do it because you provided something amazing, and we get really caught in that trap like so fast and so easily, especially on the beginning side of our journey. So yeah, don't forget that. Like when we get caught in it, it's pretty hectic, but it's like just keep going back to the product and the service. Refine, repeat, refine, repeat. And the helpful thing too is when I say like don't put all these things on a pedestal. The reason why is because when you do, you'll get stuck in this like one path. And I've had this so many times where it's like, oh, she's the best, and I'm just gonna stay here, and I get stuck in that one path when my intuition at a certain point is like, it's time to move on. And it's not time to move on because the information wasn't valuable. It's time to move on because there's somewhere else that I'd love to go and gather more information because it's a business and it's ever growing and ever scaling and there's so much to learn, so I think that's the big dynamic too, is remember there's so much to learn. And even all these larger companies, because I have the opportunity now, this is when I do business to business stuff, it's like, I work with some smaller companies and entrepreneurs one-on-one, but then when we do business to business, we go in, we're doing 2-day events, 2 meetings, we're doing all the quarterly forecasting and all this stuff. You would be shocked to understand how many companies are alive at very high rates that are very unorganized on the back end, right? And so this judgment of I have to be all these things to get there, I would love for you to be them. So your life is easier when you do get there, because trust me, it's much easier like to maintain it while you grow than to go in and do these like rehashes that we're doing in these bigger companies. But if you don't, like you're okay. Nobody's perfect. And even these huge companies are still learning and growing, or else they wouldn't be hiring consultants, You have $1 billion companies hiring consultants. Why? Because nobody has it all together. So it's just remembering that too is just learning. And the more we don't know, the more we get to grow. And every next stage you get to, you're not going to know what you're doing. And then you're going to learn. And then you're going to have to do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing.
Well, I feel like that's a beautiful way to like wrap this up as full circle, because you started the show with that wonderful example of your client who you've referenced many times. He really was in this job, but then it was like depleting him. And what he was so excited about was, coaching and teaching people, perhaps, granting others, this beautiful service, but had that kind of whatever you want to call it, imposter syndrome from this one coach that he had, because that coach was doing it in a certain way and he was trying to mimic it. That's imitation is like so flattering, but we're here to uncover and dissolve away those limiting patterns and beliefs so that the trueness of whatever can come out, like he was in coaching. And I feel like I was humbly reminded as you're speaking about that and kind of talking about, people aren't always truthful with their marketing and their stories of how they got to where they are. I mean, Dan and I can tell you many stories of coaches and business coaches and podcast producers who were going to get us to the top, and we bought, and we bought right into it. I mean, it almost brings me to tears. We've lost so much money, and we humbly fell on our asses. Like, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. All right, again, this challenge. What's it presenting to us? How can we really ground in the moment and see, like, what is it showing us? And it's like, okay, wait, these people, now I'm looking at it, they're just emulating what other people are doing. How on earth could they know what was right for us? We're very unique. We've been together almost 2 decades. We have a very different outlook. Our audience, our message is so different. how come we're trying to put ourselves in this box of what everybody's saying we should do to grow our business? And it did the complete opposite. It plummeted, and it was beautiful to go through that, because that obstacle then allowed us to align what was meaningful and valuable to us and what worked and what didn't. You almost have to go through what doesn't work. You have to figure that out to come on the other side of it and find that uniqueness in you and have the courage to just speak it. And I think that that's what the world's truly looking for. How can we serve others with our unique presence? It's so boring that everybody wants to be the same. Allow that beauty and the uniqueness of your individual personality to shine through.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, it's a beautiful way to wrap it up. And even Ralph Waldo Emerson says it, envy is ignorance, imitation is suicide. Because it's like you said, when we imitate, we're literally killing ourselves. And it's the thing that you're saying. It's like when you were trying to imitate and create a podcast around something else, your business dropped and failed because you killed it. You killed it because you killed the core essence of what it is. And that happens in my business too. Like if I imitate and I don't catch it, I see it drop. I see the clients who come in are like not aligned. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And then I look and there's a level of like, oh my gosh, I subordinated. I thought it needed to look this way. And it's like, cut it out. Get back to the authenticity, get back to the mission, get back to the message, get back to the purpose, the vision, because that's truly like the important part. And that's where it thrives. So it's a beautiful example. And it's a great thing, I think, for everyone to hear, because businesses plummet when you get off that track. Yeah. Yeah.
Carly, this has just been so interesting. I want to make sure though, as we wrap up here, that if there's anything on your heart that you feel you'd like to share as we close out here, do you feel like we didn't cover anything, or one last message to give the listeners? If not, that's also okay too. We did cover a lot.
Yeah, we covered so much. I think just a reminder is, you are literally the only person you are guaranteed to spend the rest of your life with. Everyone else on this planet, like there's no guarantee. Everything fluctuates in and out. You literally are the only one. And so when we think about personal development, it's really about focusing on the most important relationship you have. It's the one with yourself. So the more that you refine and fine tune that, the more you get to experience that as well, which makes everything else flourish, by the way. So it's like, it's a win-win for me. So give yourself permission to just, focus on you, because it's a win-win everywhere else. Yeah.
Absolutely. The biggest investment is in yourself. I could not ignore.
Totally.
It's perfect way to end it. Carly, where can we direct people if they want to learn more about you, and any resources that we can link in the show notes here?
Yeah, so you guys can find me at carlypepin.com. And then I don't know if I give it to you, but I do have a resource, which I have like a masterclass on imposter syndrome. So I'm happy to send that to you guys to make sure that we can use that as a resource.
Okay, beautiful. Is that something that we could put as a link in the show notes too?
For sure. I'll get that for you guys. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Carly, this has just been such a pleasure and a joy, and warmed my heart in so many ways. We thank you again for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.